TFA fam, what is up? What is happening? We are back with week 4 wide receiver ranking. So, not waste your time. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Our wide receiver ones are as follows. No surprise here with the top. Justin Jefferson, followed by Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka, Nakua, Chris Olave, and Debo Samuel wrapping out our top 12 wide receivers for week 4. Cody, hit us with some of your favorite wide receiver ones this week.
Yeah, man, let's kick it off with Keenan Allen, who's been the wide receiver one on back-to-back weeks. He has 39 targets through the first 3 weeks. Now gets a matchup against the Raiders that looks better on paper in terms of the fantasy production they've allowed, which is kind of what we should expect, considering the fact they faced the Broncos and the Steelers in the first and third weeks, and then they got smacked around by the Bills in week 2. They allowed James Cook to have his first 100-yard rushing game of his career. They didn't need to throw a ton in that game. But this game has a 48-point over/under. Both defenses are questionable at best, so you can lock in Keenan Allen for another top 10, top 8, top 5 type of fantasy day. Next up, I want to talk about Jamar Chase. Obviously, the first 2 weeks with him were ugly, but we finally saw some signs of life in week 3, even with Joe Burrow not playing his best. He ended up going for 12 for 141 on 15 targets. The thing I liked seeing the most was they were much more willing to move Jamar Chase around the formation, figure out ways to get the ball in his hands with Burrow being limited than they were with any of the other options. Now they're going to get a matchup against the Tennessee Titans in week 4. Nothing that I am worried about whatsoever. This defense is an absolute pass funnel. They're not going to be able to do much on the ground with Joe Mixon. So this is just going to be Burrow dropping back another 45 times in this game. The thing that you like to see here as well is the fact that Tennessee has just a 13% pressure rate. That's bottom 10. And they have a bottom 5 blitz rate. So this should allow Burrow time to sit there in the pocket, navigate the pocket, and be able to find Chase. And he can have another type of performance like he just did in week 3. Next up, Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you're worried about the Sun God being limited due to that turf toe injury he picked up in week 2, worry no more. St. Brown went out last week, had his second straight 102-yard outing. Now gets a divisional matchup against the Packers. Whether or not Jair Alexander comes back for this game in week 4, it doesn't really matter because he doesn't play in the slot. In weeks 1 and 2, when he was available, he only had a total of 2 snaps from the slot. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been playing inside and outside, kind of like in a 50-50 split this year. But even if Alexander comes back, I think we could see them just put Amon-Ra into the slot where he ran the 10th most snaps from the slot last year. So it's entirely possible we just see him line up there for the majority of the time on Thursday night. Really like this spot that he's in. Puka Nakua, he finally the insane run came back down to earth a little bit. He did finish with 5 for 72 on Monday night. That big play toward the end of the game to kind of save his fantasy day. But up next are the Indianapolis Colts, who have allowed the 10th most half PPR points per game to wide receivers. So I think we get back to seeing Puka in that 10 plus, that double digit type of target range for week 4. And I like the spot going up against the Indianapolis Colts.
We'll have to monitor the situation with the New Orleans Saints here with Derek Carr. Will he be able to return? Now, it sounds like the injury is not as bad as we thought. So, regardless, they still have Jameis Winston, but it is a little bit of a downgrade, I think, from Derek Carr and kind of what you can expect. But still, I still think Chris Olave is safe with Jameis Winston at quarterback this week.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's go ahead and move over to the wide receiver twos. And they start off with DK Metcalf, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, who probably should be back this week coming off that injury. Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, George Pickens, Nico Collins, Chris Godwin, and Brandon Ayuk. Cody, hit us with those wide receiver twos.
Yeah, you mentioned Jalen Waddle there a little bit. Assuming he is back from his concussion, I absolutely love this spot here for him. Talking about a game that has a 53.5-point total. I think we get a big Waddle game, the first one of the year, because for the first 2 games where Waddle was playing, we haven't even seen him register a wide receiver 2 week. But I do think that changes against the Bills this week. I just don't see how the Bills don't just sell out to try and stop Tyreek. Obviously, they know Jalen Waddle well from this being a divisional matchup, but with the way that Tyreek has been playing for the first couple of weeks, I can't imagine a scenario where they try and give the same amount of attention to both receivers here. So assuming that Waddle plays, I think we see Waddle get his first 100-yard receiving game of the season as well as his first touchdown. So again, assuming he plays, love Jalen Waddle in this spot. Next up, let's talk about Amari Cooper. Cooper's really the only thing that's consistently working for Cleveland the passing game right now. He's posted two strong performances in back-to-back weeks. Went for 7 for 90 against the Steelers, and then went for 7 for 116 and 1 against Tennessee. Now it gets a matchup against the Ravens secondary that has struggled early on, in the top 10 for fantasy points against. Even if Marlon Humphrey is back for this game, he's going to be coming off of foot surgery. Cooper's looking like another strong wide receiver 2 candidate in this one. Joshua Palmer is going to be the guy I talk about next. Now, it absolutely sucks to see Mike Williams go down, especially with the day that he was having. But Palmer is going to be the guy early on here, at least. We've seen Palmer flash over the past couple of seasons. Now steps into this matchup, like I was touching on earlier with Keenan Allen. Raiders can definitely be had through the air. We have a 48-point total as well. So if you pick up Palmer from waivers this week, you can feel pretty good about plugging him into your lineups right away. Next up, the Houston duo, and that is Nico Collins and Tank Dell. I think we see strong games from both of these wideouts and a bounce back from Nico after he was only targeted 3 times last week. And that was because Tank Dell absolutely went off, going for 5 for 145 and 1. The Steelers are struggling defensively. They've allowed nearly 38 half PPR points per game to wide receivers through the first 3 weeks. The Steelers' pass rush could obviously make life a little bit difficult here for CJ Stroud, but he's actually performed decently well when he's been under pressure. If you look at his adjusted completion percentage, he is above guys like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Josh Allen, currently ranking 11th in that metric. So the total for this game only sits at 41, but I actually like this to go over, and I think we see that number creep up a little bit as the week goes on.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move over to the wide receiver threes, and they are as follows: Jerry Judy, Christian Kirk, Tank Dell, Josh Palmer, Mike Evans, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, Adam Thielen, Jordan Addison, Gabe Davis, Michael Thomas, and Jacoby Myers. So, Cody, hit us with the wide receiver threes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw out a blanket statement for the Broncos wide receivers in this one. I really struggled in terms of like knowing like who to put in what pecking order. But I think if you have any of the Broncos receiving options, specifically Jerry Judy and Cortland Sutton, you can feel good plugging them into this matchup going up against Chicago. You know you have an awful team here whenever the team that's coming in on the road, mind you, just let up 70 points in the game before, and you are 2.5 point underdogs. At least that's where the line opened up. I don't know where it is now, but that really tells you the state of the Chicago Bears in this one. So whether it's Judy, whether it's Sutton, you can feel comfortable plugging both those guys in. Even Marvin Mims and his limited involvement. If you're in a deeper league and you need a dart throw type of guy, I think you can plug Marvin Mims in this one. So Chicago might even be able to get something going on offense, which would obviously only help this game script. Not that I'm counting on that, but that is a possibility in this game with going up against the Broncos defense. So I think it's a good situation for the Broncos pass catchers. Next up, Kev, your guy, Jaden Reed. He has had 2 strong performances in back-to-back weeks, found the end zone twice against Atlanta in week 2. Last week had 63 yards on just 3 catches, but he did have 7 targets. The Falcons obviously weren't able to get anything going through the air against the Lions last week, but I think with the absence of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think this shows up in this one. I think Reed has another wide receiver 3 type of day. Last but not least, we haven't really gotten one of these in yet, but let's go with a nice revenge game narrative here. Let's talk about Adam Thielen, who just absolutely turned back the hands of time in week 3 and just crushed, going 11 for 145 and 1, almost had a second touchdown as well. So that could have even been a bigger day for Thielen. We just saw Keenan Allen light this defense up, and I think Thielen does the same here. Love this spot for him in a game with a solid total currently sitting at 46.
Yeah, I just want to mention a couple names that you're probably not seeing on this list. You're probably wondering where they're at. Garrett Wilson is not on here. I can't do it. I can't do it with Zach
Can't
Wilson
do
at
it.
quarterback, and now you're getting a Chiefs defense who has been one of the best defenses in the league. And I just think it is going to be a really, really rough day for Zach Wilson on Sunday night. And so Garrett Wilson is a really hard play at the best right now. He's like a wide receiver 4, and then Drake London also isn't on this list. nor is DJ Moore. And, with the
Can't do
respective offenses that they reside in right now, it's really hard to trust any of them. I think they're all like in that wide receiver 4 category. This could be a better day for DJ Moore just because of how bad the Denver defense has been. But I'm also not going to trust Justin Fields and his offense right now because the way the coaching staff has been handling the Chicago Bear offense is absolutely ridiculous. They came out to say and said that they're really close from being there and where they want to be. I'm like, in what world are you really close? Like define really close to me, because like for you,
Close to
maybe it
what?
seems like it's much bigger because I have not seen a thing to say that this offense is anywhere close to being where they want it to be. So that being said, we just cannot trust those guys right now. They're more wide receiver 4s than anything. I'm not going to continue to put him up here as the top 36 wide receivers off their name because I just think it's reckless at this point. So if you have better options, I probably just wouldn't look to play him right now. So with that being said, if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button for future content. We appreciate all the support we've been getting, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.